These conversations happened on the evening of October 13, 2020, at Jane's Bar in a usually quiet town in Indiana. Everything you hear is true and plausible.
How did the Treasury Secretary appointed by Obama doesn't even pay his taxes?
And the guy appointed by Trump hid his money in the Cayman Islands to avoid taxes.
Yeah, and Trump was the first candidate for president who didn't release his tax returns.
But he requires us to submit tax returns before he'll rent us an apartment in one of his buildings.
And he thinks we're stupid by telling us we'll receive higher percentage increase in wages than rich folks from tax breaks. So if we make $20,000 and get a 10% increase, it equals $2,000. And if someone making $200,000 only gets a 5% increase, which he says is half as much, it equals $10,000, which is 500%, 5 times more than what I got.
And the really rich keep getting a lot richer thanks to his tax breaks for the poor.
You know what? Let's make it simple. Give everybody the same amount of money.
Well, that's what they did with the $1,200 in the stimulus bill they gave to all of us making under $99,000.
Right. Oh, so the rich guy, he's not even going to know the money's deposited in his account, right? Well, the poor guy, he's got to go out and get iBox. Xbox. To find out how miserable his finances and his life has become, right?
And it costs $290 billion to give all those people those one-time checks. And the stimulus bill was for another $2 trillion, and no one asked why.
Why not give it all to the people to pay for their rent or food? I guess now they have an excuse to pass another bill that still won't bail out those struggling to survive.
And the rich change the way things get presented, so they get to play by different rules.
Or the same rules with a different outcome. Like when they propose a tax reform that's supposed to help the middle class, and then they slip in tax breaks for private jets.
Oh, maybe that's with all those little small economy size electric jets. Like that.
Yeah. Well, when I worked at Lehman, I used to complain I had less than $100,000 left over at taxes. And John had a lot more left over than me. But now I had to pay that $150 ticket out of nothing remaining, while John had to pay his $150 out of probably close to $200,000 he had left with all his tax breaks and all. I'm not saying it's not fair. I'm just saying what it is.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Sorry. There's a lot more to it than how the money gets left over and how it's spent. Look, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm a law student at Columbia. And I mean, if we really want to figure out what's fair, let's not lose track of those with less income who have more likely to go to jail than these rich folks that are given the same crimes because of money's influence or lack thereof.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you guys remember that little piece of shit, Ethan Couch, who killed 4 people while driving drunk and was given probation? Yeah. His attorney used the affluenza defense. Remember that? Affluenza. That he was affluent, too rich to know the difference between what's right or wrong because his parents didn't discipline him. Remember that crap?
You know, well, if I was a public defender, I'd now use the destitution defense, that someone's poor to know the difference between right and wrong, especially if they were committing a crime because they couldn't find a job to buy food or didn't have any parents around to provide any discipline.
Or got a red light ticket.
Okay, but using that same logic, are you saying we should let everyone out of prison whose parents didn't discipline them?
No, that's what that judge was saying. I'm saying it's another example of how income inequality has changed not only justice and fairness in our society, but the interpretation of our laws.
The only reason he got away with it was because he was rich.
Yeah, imagine what would have happened if he was poor and black.
Yeah, like as opposed to those 2 poor black innocent guys from Cleveland who were just released after 39 years in prison, falsely accused of murder by the police.
Yeah, and make no mistake, that one was about race too.
So yeah, think if they were 2 rich, innocent, black or white guys, they'd have gone to prison?
You know what they should have done? They should have taken the cops, the judge, DA, anybody else that lied to get these guys convicted, throw their asses in the prison for 39 years like these guys had to serve, right?
That'll never happen either. All those folks have money. And don't forget, crimes with corporations only pay a fine.
Yeah, well, us blue-collar types get jail time. So you can say again, poor folks need to learn not to commit crimes.
Look at the difference between OJ and Rodney King, right?
Yeah, but I mean, look what happens when a white officer wrongly kills somebody who's black and gets away with it.
No, that can never happen again. That's a miscarriage of justice.
You know what, though? You know what, though? Sometimes they're just bullies. He didn't do it because of a person's race, but you know what? Racists on each side always turn everything into a freaking race war all the time.
Wait, so are you saying that the killing of George Floyd wasn't racially motivated?
Oh, no, it may have been. But this was a bully cop who had 17 complaints against him. The guy shouldn't have been out in the street. He should have been behind the desk. So, and those complaints had nothing to do with, didn't all have something to do with black men.
And he was an accident waiting to happen. And the mayor and the police chief knew that and should be equally responsible for George's death.
Yeah, and the police union that fought to keep him on the force.
Yeah, you can't stop a sadistic piece of shit from killing another person. But we can sure as hell stop him from being in a position of authority that doesn't allow a victim to defend himself.
It sounds like the lead in the water deal, with kids getting poisoned as the government and corporations knew what was going on.
Listen, I remember seeing the news on that guy, Eric Garner. Remember that guy was killed for selling single cigarettes that weren't taxed?
Yeah.
Gets surrounded and attacked by 5 policemen who had nothing better to do than harass this poor guy just trying to survive. I mean, and they knew Eric wasn't going to fight back.
Yeah, and if that could happen to a father of 6 for doing nothing, it can happen to any one of us for things we all do that are a lot worse, especially when you're black.
And can you imagine what it must be like for a black parent to have to tell their kids to behave differently than other kids when around the police? I mean, it's just not right.
Yeah, and at least black kids don't have to concern themselves about all the little stuff that their white friends have to worry about, like going through a red light camera. I mean, they're worrying about a police officer thinking about killing them just because they're reaching in the glove compartment for their registration after being stopped for a broken tail light.
Wow. Oh, my God. We all need to put ourselves in those shoes.
Yeah, but we also just need to be honest and realize that it's not all black and white. Racists on both sides of the issue will never allow the facts to determine what's right and wrong.
Yeah, well, don't forget, Freddie Gray's death at the hands of the Baltimore Police Department was what started this whole Black Lives Matter movement. And 3 of those 6 police officers in charging Gray's death, they were black.
Yeah, but George Floyd's death struck a nerve. Like Eric, he was submissive and not fighting back, and they killed him in public before the whole world because they knew that they had that right, the power to get away with it.
You know what? They're all sick pieces of shit.
Yeah, they are. And so are those who continue to let it happen. And all those who become submissive and don't fight back against authorities who have the power to control our lives and take our lives. I mean, it's like what they did to Eric and George and Breonna and Elijah. And that leads to these racists thinking that they also have the authority. And then we lose an Ahmed who was just crossing paths with them while jogging.
Wait, but there are protests happening all over the country involving everyone. People have risked their lives to join together. You know, that's got to make a difference.
Yeah, there are more demonstrations right now than what occurred when Dr. King was assassinated.
No, but also lootings and shootings and buildings and businesses burnt down in neighborhoods that need the police that they're protesting to protect them.
And then the rioting becomes the news and the distraction when it should be the unjustified killing of a citizen who wasn't fighting back.
Yeah, well, of course, then it moves on to the injustices done by the South's heroes from the Civil War with destruction of statues and changing the name of these army bases.
I remember serving in Folk Polk, Louisiana, with a bunch of black guys from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. They had no idea who General Polk, who the fort was named after, was not only a Confederate general, but a slave owner. Did you know that?
Yeah, and they just recently put a statue of Union Army General Ulysses Grant on grounds of West Point, which all these years instead has honored Confederate General Robert E. Lee, who lost the war to General Grant.
They even found out that the guy who Yale was named after was a slave trader. So now they need to get rid of his statue at the university entrance and then change its name.
Yeah.
Hey, man, they should change it to jail.
Well, listen, it turns out the guy who founded Yale, his name was actually Dumber. So they decided to pick the slave trader.
There are probably tens of thousands of success stories that occurred on the backs of slaves that need to be individually sorted out and straightened out. But geez, don't be blaming everybody. Most of us fought together to end slavery.
And why did it take so long to get rid of slaves anyway and make them free like human beings? And how could they possibly let it happen again? I mean, they keep talking about the past, changing statues and names, while today it's estimated there are 40 million slaves in the world today. Today, slaves. Slavery now is a lot different than the millions who were sold to the British and the Dutch by African tribes to ship to the Americas.
Yeah, well, back then, those poor slaves were traded for weapons so that African empires could expand and capture even more slaves. Of course, slavery now has added to its appetite of enslaving so many to work without pay. I mean, by selling little girls and little boys as sexual deviants and trading for organ harvesting and women forced into prostitution. Oh, and these children, they become soldiers. I mean, can you imagine what that must be like? What happens to their souls?
Souls? They have no souls. And it's like drugs. If there wasn't a demand, there wouldn't be a supply.
Yeah, and how many wealthy people and corporate shareholders prosper from this ongoing profitable industry, with even countries we support having it as a major money maker.
Yeah, and on the news last night, I read that it was proven that 58,000 kids were kidnapped last year in the United States by strangers for sex. It's like, how can we let this stuff happen?